I thought Christmas Eve would find me at home with my mother, measuring out her medications, holding her frail hand while she rested. Instead, I stood frozen on this deserted road, staring at a man collapsed in the snow, his blood spreading like dark roses against the white ground. And he was an alpha. I stopped breathing. His scent hit me first, strong, smoky, dangerous, awakening the omega instincts I'd spent years suppressing, burying deep where no one could find them. "Help me," he rasped, his eyes struggling to stay open. His jacket was torn apart, and through the fabric I could see gunshot wounds across his chest. This wasn't an accident. Someone had done this deliberately, methodically. Every survival instinct screamed at me. "Billy, what are you doing standing here? Run. Call the police. Do anything except touch him." But then my gaze landed on his face, twisted in pain, yes, but underneath that was something else. Something broken. Like a man who'd lost everything that mattered. And despite my better judgment, something inside me softened. I pulled off my scarf and pressed it against his wounds, applying as much pressure as my trembling hands could manage. "Stay with me," I said, though I wasn't sure he could even hear me anymore. His hands suddenly gripped mine, tight, desperate, like a drowning man clutching his last lifeline. His scent intensified, becoming possessive, claiming, and my entire body shuddered in response. This is wrong. This alpha is dangerous, but I couldn't leave him there to die. 10 minutes later, I'd somehow managed to drag him into my old car. He was unconscious now, but his fingers still clutched my jacket like he was afraid I'd disappear. "Who are you?" I whispered to the silence, knowing the answer would probably terrify me. When I checked his pockets for identification, I found a gun first, cold, heavy, real, then a crumpled business card that read, "Draven King, Private Security Consultant." Private security? Right. This man screamed Mafia boss from every scar on his body. When I finally got him home, my mother's weak voice greeted me from her chair. "Billy, who is that?" Her eyes widened as she took in the scene. "Son, that's an alpha. And those Mom, please," I said, struggling to get him onto the bed. I couldn't just leave him out there. He would have died. She studied my face for a long moment, then simply nodded. "Get the first aid kit. But Billy, if he wakes up and things go wrong, we'll need to run." I stripped off his shirt, revealing a body covered in scars. Old ones, deep ones. This man had lived a life of violence. As I threaded the needle to stitch his wounds, his eyes suddenly snapped open. Green, dark, intense, piercing straight through me. "You," he managed, his voice rough like gravel. "Don't move," I said, my hands shaking as I worked. "You've been shot multiple times. You're lucky they missed your heart." He smiled, a twisted, dark expression that didn't reach his eyes. "Lucky? That's a new description." Then his hand shot out, gripping my wrist with surprising strength. "Why did you save me, Omega?" My heart hammered against my ribs. "He knows what I am." "Because I couldn't leave you there," I answered honestly. When I met his gaze for just a second, I saw something vulnerable flash across his face, something he was trying desperately to hide. Then he released me and fell unconscious again. Outside, snow began falling, fast and heavy. I walked to the window and watched it accumulate. By morning, the roads would be completely blocked. We were trapped here, in my house, with an injured alpha mafia boss, my sick mother, and me. An Omega who just made the biggest mistake of his life. I returned to check on him, adjusting the blankets, monitoring his breathing. His face looked younger in sleep, less dangerous. I found myself wondering about those scars, about what kind of life created a man like this. The gun on my table caught my eye, a reminder that whatever world he came from, it was nothing like mine. Mom appeared in the doorway, leaning heavily on her cane. "Billy, are you sure about this?" "No," I admitted. "I'm not sure about anything. But it's too late now." She came closer, reaching out to touch my shoulder. "You have your father's heart. Too kind for your own good." Her expression grew serious. "But kindness can get you killed, especially with an alpha like this." "I know," I whispered, "but I couldn't watch him die." "I understand," she said softly. "Just promise me you'll be careful, that you'll protect yourself first." I nodded, though we both knew I was lying. I'd already chosen to protect him over my own safety the moment I'd lifted him from the snow. The night stretched on endlessly. I dozed in the chair beside his bed, jerking awake at every sound, every shift in his breathing. Around 3 in the morning, I noticed his fever spiking. I fetched cool water and a cloth, gently pressing it to his forehead. His skin burned under my touch. "You're going to be okay," I murmured, more to convince myself than him. "I didn't save you just to lose you now." As if hearing me, his hand moved slightly, fingers searching until they found mine. Even unconscious, he held on. Dawn approached slowly. Through the window I could see the snow had buried everything. My car, the road, the entire world. We were completely cut off. No way in, no way out. The isolation felt both terrifying and strangely intimate, like we existed in a pocket universe where normal rules didn't apply. I made coffee as the sun rose, watching the steam curl upward while my mind raced through possibilities. What would happen when he fully woke? Would he be grateful or angry? Would he leave as soon as he could? Or would his enemies find him here first? And why did part of me hope he'd stay, despite knowing how dangerous that was? Mom joined me in the kitchen, accepting the tea I'd prepared. "The snow's blocked us in completely," she observed. "I know. How long do you think before the road's clear?" "Days, maybe. A week if it keeps snowing like this." She sipped her tea slowly. "Then we'd better hope he's one of the good ones." I looked toward the bedroom where Draven lay. "I don't think there are good ones in his world, Mom. Just survivors." "Maybe," she said, "but you saw something in him worth saving. Trust that instinct, Billy. It's kept you alive this long." I wished I had her faith. All I felt was uncertainty and fear, mixed with something else I didn't want to name. Something that had sparked to life the moment his hand had gripped mine in the snow, refusing to let go. The day passed quietly, but I knew it was just the calm before the storm. Morning arrived, but daylight felt distant and cold. Snow continued falling, blanketing everything in sight. The roads remained blocked. Phone signals flickered weakly, and the world beyond our small house felt like it had ceased to exist. Inside, Draven still lay in the bed, but this time his eyes were open, watching me with an intensity that made my skin prickle with awareness. "You're staring," I said without looking at him, focusing on preparing my mother's morning tea. My voice came out steadier than I felt, but my heart was racing. "Is he going to hurt me? Take me somewhere against my will?" "You smell like jasmine and rain," Draven said suddenly. His voice was lazy, almost casual, but the words themselves were sharp as knives. "That's an unusual combination. Rare for an Omega who's trying so hard to hide." I dropped the cup. Tea splashed across the counter and I scrambled for a towel, my cheeks burning. "I'm not hiding anything," I said too quickly, wiping up the mess. But he already knew. Alphas always knew. He sat up slowly, painfully. His body was still weak from blood loss, but his presence filled the entire room. He moved toward me, closing the distance until his scent, leather, smoke, and something metallic like old blood surrounded me completely. "You live alone with your sick mother in the middle of nowhere. No pack bonds, no alpha protection, and yet you saved a complete stranger who was bleeding out in the snow." He caught my chin, forcing me to meet his eyes. "Either you're incredibly foolish, or you're running from something terrible." My jaw clenched. "Maybe both." His eyes narrowed, but then he laughed, a low, genuine sound that surprised me. "Honest. I appreciate that." He released me and sat down at the table, wincing at the movement. "I owe you my life, Billy, and I always repay my debts." "I don't want anything from you," I said, turning away. But that was a lie. I wanted so many things. Safety, freedom, a life without constant fear. None of those seemed possible anymore. My mother entered the kitchen, leaning heavily on her walker but maintaining the strong-willed expression she always wore. She looked at Draven, then at me. "This alpha cannot stay long. Once the snow melts, he needs to leave." "I'm not going anywhere," Draven stated flatly. "Not until I discover who shot me. And not until I'm certain Billy is safe." "I am safe," I protested, but even I didn't believe it. Draven's gaze fixed on me, possessive and protective in equal measure. "No, you're not." He pulled out his phone, its cracked screen flickering to life. "My people are searching for me, but so are my enemies. If they discover I'm here," he paused, letting the implications hang heavy in the air, "they won't care about you or your mother. You'll just be collateral damage." My heart sank. "Then why don't you just leave? Right now?" Why are you putting us in danger? Because I can barely walk across the room without collapsing, Draven said coldly. And because, he stopped, his jaw working as he struggled with something. Because if I leave now you'll be completely alone. I've seen what happens to isolated omegas when predators find them. Something in his voice, pain, regret, perhaps a memory he wished he could forget. I wanted to ask, but my mother squeezed my hand. Billy, we need to eat. Make something for all of us. Dinner was awkward. Mom stayed quiet. Draven observed everything and I just kept wondering when this nightmare would end. But then Draven spoke again. Your mother needs proper medical care. Real medicine, not just home remedies. I'm aware, I said quietly. But doctors don't come out here. And the hospital. I can't afford it. Draven typed something on his phone. I'll have supplies delivered. Discreetly. I don't need your charity, I snapped. Frustration boiling over. It's not charity, Draven said, leaning forward despite his obvious pain. Consider it payment. You saved my life. Let me help save hers. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I stepped outside. The snow crunched under my feet as I stood there, trying to process everything that had happened. Suddenly, Draven appeared behind me, draping a blanket over my shoulders. You'll freeze to death out here. I'm fine. No, you're not. He turned me around, his green eyes searching my face. Tell me the truth, Billy. What are you running from? The question broke something inside me. Tears welled up, hot against my cold cheeks. An alpha. One who tried to claim me. By force. Draven's entire body went rigid. His scent exploded outward, pure rage. The kind that made my instincts scream danger. Where is he now? I don't know. Maybe he's still looking for me. Maybe he forgot I existed. I hid my face. I just wanted to live peacefully here. That's all. Draven cupped my face with both hands, gentle despite the violence I knew he was capable of. Listen to me carefully. No one will touch you. Not while I'm breathing. For the first time in years, I felt safe. The snow continued falling outside, but inside Draven's presence, I felt warm. Maybe this was wrong. Maybe it was too fast. But in that moment, I chose to trust him. He didn't move away. Instead, he pulled me closer and I let him. His warmth seeped into my cold body, and I realized how long it had been since anyone had held me like this, like I mattered, like I was worth protecting. How long have you been alone? He asked softly. 3 years, since I escaped, and you've been taking care of your mother by yourself all this time. Who else would do it? He was quiet for a moment. You're stronger than you think, Billy. Braver too. I don't feel brave. I feel terrified most of the time. Bravery isn't the absence of fear, Draven said. It's doing what needs to be done despite being afraid. You saved me even though every instinct told you to run. That's real courage. I pulled back slightly to look at him. Who hurt you? You have scars everywhere. His expression hardened. That's a long story. One I'm not ready to share yet. Fair enough. I have my secrets too. But you told me yours, he pointed out. You asked, so I did. He smiled slightly. Come on, let's get back inside before your mother worries. As we walked back to the house, his hands stayed on my lower back, protective, grounding, and I realized that despite the danger, despite everything logical telling me to be afraid, I didn't want him to leave. Not yet. Maybe not ever. 3 days had passed since I'd found Draven bleeding in the snow. The weather hadn't improved. If anything, the storm had intensified, sealing us in completely. But something else had changed. The atmosphere between us felt different now, charged with unspoken understanding. Draven had grown stronger, able to move around the house without collapsing, and the medicine he'd arranged had arrived mysteriously, helping my mother's condition improve noticeably. For the first time in months, she had color in her cheeks. It felt like maybe things would be okay. That feeling didn't last. Morning light filtered through the windows as I prepared breakfast. Draven appeared in the kitchen doorway, his expression grave. My people tracked suspicious activity near the town border. They're closing in. I set down the pan, appetite vanishing. How much time do we have? A day, maybe less. He moved closer and I noticed the tension in his shoulders. Billy, you need to understand something about my world. When my enemies come, they don't just want me eliminated. They want to destroy everything and everyone I care about. It sends a message. So what's your plan? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. First, your mother gets the medical equipment today. Then, he hesitated, studying my face. Then we prepare for the possibility that you and your mother will need to evacuate quickly. Evacuate? This is our home, and I'll make sure you can return to it, he promised, taking my hand. But only if we survive what's coming. The rest of that day felt surreal. Draven taught me basic defensive strategies. Where to hide, how to move quietly, how to help my mother escape if necessary. I kept thinking he was overreacting, but the deadly seriousness in his eyes told me otherwise. This was real. The danger was real. By evening, the temperature had dropped further. Mom was resting upstairs, and I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when Draven suddenly grabbed my wrist. "Billy, stop moving. What's wrong? Listen." He pressed a finger to his lips. I strained my ears. There, distant at first, but growing closer. Footsteps. Multiple pairs. Then the unmistakable sound of car engines. I rushed to the window and my blood turned to ice. Headlights. 4, maybe 5 vehicles cutting through the snow toward our house. "They're here," Draven said, his voice deadly calm. He pulled out his gun, checking the ammunition. "Get your mother. Lock yourselves in the upstairs bedroom. Now." "But what about you, Billy? Now?" His shout startled me into action. I ran upstairs, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Mom saw my face and immediately understood. I grabbed her arm, helping her into the reinforced bedroom, the one with the heavy lock. I handed her my phone and the old baseball bat from the closet. "If anything happens, call the police immediately." She clutched my face with trembling hands. "Billy, please be careful. I can't lose you." "You won't, Mom, I promise." I kissed her forehead and locked the door from the outside, pocketing the key. Downstairs, the front door exploded inward. I watched through the stair railing as a man entered, bald, scarred, radiating violence. His scent was rotten, wrong, making my stomach turn. "Draven King," he called out mockingly. "You weren't hard to find, especially when you're harboring such a sweet-smelling Omega." My blood ran cold. They tracked my scents. Draven aimed his weapon. "Leave now. Final warning." The scarred alpha laughed. "I'm not alone." He gestured and 4 more armed men emerged from the shadows. "The boss wants you alive. But your little Omega friend? He's expendable." Draven's growl was primal. Animalistic, the sound of a predator protecting what was his. "Touch him and I'll kill every last one of you." Big threats from a wounded man. The scarred alpha advanced. Then everything happened at once. Draven fired. The shot was precise, lethal. The scarred alpha dropped. The others opened fire. Bullets tore through walls, shattered windows. Draven used the overturned table as cover, returning fire with practiced efficiency. I couldn't just hide. Against every reasonable thought, I unlocked the bedroom and started down the stairs. "Draven!" One of the attackers grabbed my ankle, yanking me down hard. "Come here, Omega." His breath was hot and disgusting against my face. I kicked him as hard as I could, connecting with his nose. He howled, loosening his grip just enough for me to scramble away. Draven shot the man before he could recover. "Millie, get back upstairs." I tried, but then I saw another attacker approaching Draven from behind, raising his weapon. "Behind you!" I screamed. Draven spun and fired in one smooth motion. The man fell. But the distraction cost him. Another attacker's bullet caught Draven's shoulder. He stumbled, falling to one knee. "No!" I didn't think. I just moved. Grabbing the baseball bat, I swung with all my strength, connecting with the shooter's skull. He staggered, and Draven finished him with a single shot. Then silence. Bodies littered the floor. The smell of gunpowder and blood filled the air. Draven was covered in crimson, breathing hard, but alive. "Billy," he said through gritted teeth. "I told you to stay upstairs. And let you die?" Tears streamed down my face. "Your shoulder, you're bleeding badly." "I'll survive," he said, but his voice was weaker now. "Billy?" My mother's frightened voice came from upstairs. "Is it over?" "Yes, Mom," I called back, trying to sound confident. "Everything's okay." But it wasn't. Mom appeared at the top of the stairs, her face draining of color as she looked out the window. "Billy, there are more coming. Many more." Draven cursed viciously. "We're leaving. Right now." "But Mom can't." "I'll carry her," he interrupted, already moving despite his wounded shoulder. He climbed the stairs and carefully lifted my mother into his arms. "Billy, get to the back door. Start the car. We ran through the snow, through the darkness, with danger breathing down our necks. Draven was bleeding steadily, but he didn't stop, didn't slow down. I got the car started, helped Mom into the back seat, and Draven slid behind the wheel despite his injuries. Where are we going? I asked, terrified. Somewhere they won't find us, Draven said, accelerating into the night. I promise you'll be safe. As we drove away, I looked back at our house, the home I'd worked so hard to make safe, now riddled with bullet holes and blood stains. Everything had changed in a matter of hours, but as I glanced at Draven, his jaw set with determination despite the pain, and my mother breathing steadily in the back seat, I realized something. Home wasn't a place anymore. Home was wherever we were together, and I would fight to protect it. We arrived at Draven's safe house just as dawn broke, a small cabin tucked deep in the forest, so hidden that even the snow seemed to fall differently here, quieter, more secretive. For the first time in 2 days I could actually breathe without fear clawing at my throat. We'd survived the attack, barely, but we were alive. I helped Draven inside while he carried Mom, his shoulder still bleeding through the makeshift bandage I'd wrapped around it in the car. Once Mom was settled in the bedroom, sleeping peacefully for the first time since this nightmare began, I finally allowed myself to fall apart. In the bathroom, I stared at my reflection. Blood splattered across my face, dirt caked in my hair, and eyes that looked haunted, older than they should be. I washed my face with trembling hands, scrubbing until my skin turned raw, but I couldn't wash away the fear that had burrowed deep into my bones. When I emerged, Draven was sitting on the couch, his shoulder freshly bandaged, exhaustion written across every line of his face, yet his eyes remained alert, watchful. Your mother's resting, he said softly. She's finally at peace. I sat beside him, keeping a careful distance. We need to talk about what happens next. Billy. No, listen. I cut him off, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. You brought war to our doorstep. My mother almost died tonight. We lost our home. Everything I've worked 3 years to build, gone in a single night. Draven flinched as if I'd struck him. You're right. This is my fault. All of it. I'm not finished. I took a shaky breath. But you also saved us. You protected us when you could barely stand. You put yourself between us and those men without hesitation. I finally looked at him. So I need to understand why. Why risk everything for people you barely know? He was quiet for a long moment, staring into the fireplace where flames danced and crackled. You want the truth? That's all I've ever wanted. Because you're the first person in my entire life who saved me without wanting something in return. His voice was raw, stripped of all pretense. Do you have any idea how rare that is in my world? Everyone wants something: power, money, protection, favors. But you saw a dying man and your first instinct was to help. Even knowing how dangerous it could be. That doesn't explain. I'm not done. Now it was his turn to interrupt. When I woke up in your house, when I saw you taking care of me, caring for your sick mother, living in the middle of nowhere with nothing but determination keeping you going, I saw real strength. Not the kind built on violence and fear, but the kind that comes from surviving impossible situations and still choosing kindness. He turned to face me fully. That's when I knew. Knew what? That I couldn't let anything happen to you. That protecting you mattered more than my empire, my reputation, my life. His green eyes held mine, and I saw the vulnerability there, the fear of rejection. Billy, what I'm feeling isn't just obligation. It's not gratitude. It's something I've never experienced before, and it terrifies me. My heart was racing now, pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. Draven, you don't owe me. Stop saying that. He moved closer, careful not to crowd me, but close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. This isn't about debt. This is about choice. My choice. I'm choosing you, Billy, over everything. Tears burned my eyes. You don't understand. I'm broken. That alpha who hurt me. He didn't just try to claim me physically. He destroyed my ability to trust. Every time an alpha gets close, I panic. I can't breathe. I can't. Look at me. Draven's hand cupped my cheek, gentle despite the calluses and scars. I would rather spend the rest of my life earning your trust than have you submit out of fear. I don't want your obedience, Billy. I want your partnership, your willing presence, your choice to be with me, not because you feel obligated or afraid, but because you want to be. Something inside me cracked open. How can you be so different from every other alpha I've known? Because I've seen what forced bonds do to people. I've watched my father destroy relationships through domination and control. His thumb traced my jawline. I refuse to become him. With you, I want real. Something neither of us has to hide from or regret. The firelight played across his features, highlighting the sincerity in his expression. This wasn't manipulation. This was honesty, raw and unfiltered. I'm scared, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper, of what I'm starting to feel for you. It's too fast, too intense. We've known each other less than a week. Time doesn't dictate connection, Draven said. When I thought those men would hurt you tonight, when I saw one grab you, something primal woke up inside me. Not the alpha instinct to possess, but the human need to protect what matters. You matter, Billy, more than anything else in my life. I closed my eyes, overwhelmed by the intensity of his words, his presence, everything happening between us. What if I can't be what you need? What if I'm too damaged? Then we'll be damaged together. His forehead rested against mine. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for real. And you're the most real thing I've ever found. Before I could second-guess myself, I kissed him. It was soft, tentative, testing the waters of possibility. He responded immediately but with restraint, letting me control the pace, the depth, everything. When we finally broke apart, both of us were breathing hard. I couldn't find words. Everything, he finished, a genuine smile transforming his usually guarded face. Billy, you have no idea what you've just unleashed. Maybe I want to find out. The words surprised me even as I said them. We sat there in the firelight, his arm around my shoulders, my head resting against his uninjured side, and for the first time since this all began, I felt something other than fear. I felt hope, but peace never lasts in our world. Draven's phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He checked it, and I watched his expression shift from contentment to stone-cold alertness. We have a problem. What kind of problem? The kind that's about to walk through that door in approximately 2 hours. He stood, already moving into strategic mode. It's not my enemies this time. Then who? His jaw clenched. My father, Everett King. He's tracked us here. The name sent ice through my veins. I'd heard stories about Everett King, the man who'd built a criminal empire from nothing, who ruled through fear and absolute control. Your father is coming here? Why? Because he knows about you. Draven's expression was grim. And he's coming to make me choose between you and everything he's built, everything I was supposed to inherit. What happens when he arrives? Draven looked at me, and in his eyes I saw determination mixed with fear. Either I convince him that you're worth more than his empire, or, he trailed off, or what? Or he'll try to eliminate you himself. Because in his world, love is weakness, and weakness cannot be tolerated. I stood, moving to stand beside him. Then we face him together. Billy, you don't understand. My father doesn't negotiate. He doesn't compromise. He destroys anything that threatens his control. And yet you're planning to defy him. For me, I took his hand, feeling the calluses, the strength, the slight tremor of fear he was trying to hide. That makes you either incredibly brave or completely insane. Both. Probably. He squeezed my hand. But I meant what I said. I'm choosing you. No matter what it costs. Even if it costs you everything, especially then. He pulled me close, breathing in my scent. Because what's an empire worth if I lose my soul gaining it? Outside, the wind picked up, howling through the trees. Storm clouds gathered on the horizon, both literally and metaphorically. In 2 hours, everything would change. Either we'd survive Everett King's judgment, or we'd die trying. But for now, in this moment, I had Draven's arms around me. And that felt like enough. It had to be. Morning arrived with unwelcome swiftness. I'd barely slept, spending most of the night watching Draven prepare for his father's arrival, checking weapons, securing exits, reviewing strategy. He moved like a general preparing for war. And in many ways, that's exactly what this was. Mom woke around 7, looking better than she had in days. The medicine had worked quickly, restoring color to her cheeks. When I told her what was coming, she simply nodded and squeezed my hand. Whatever happens, Billy, I'm proud of you. You've been braver than anyone should have to be. I don't feel brave, I admitted. I feel terrified. Bravery and terror aren't opposites, she said wisely. They're companions. You can't have one without the other. At exactly 9 o'clock, the sound of approaching vehicles shattered the morning quiet. Draven positioned himself by the window, and I stood behind him, watching as 3 black SUVs pulled up to the cabin. From the lead vehicle emerged a man who could only be Everett King. He was tall, silver-haired, moving with the kind of confidence that came from decades of unchallenged power. His presence was suffocating, pure alpha dominance radiating outward like a physical force. Even from inside the cabin, I could feel it pressing against my instincts, making my Omega nature want to submit, to hide, to flee. Mom peeked through the doorway and gasped. Billy, that man, he's an Alpha King. The real kind, not just in name. I know, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. My heart was hammering, but I refused to run. Not this time. Everett approached the door with measured steps. Draven opened it before he could knock, a power move, establishing that this was our territory, not his. Father, Draven said, his voice neutral. Son. Everett's gaze swept past Draven to land on me, and I felt dissected by that look, evaluated and found wanting in a single glance. So this is the Omega who's turned you into a deserter. He's not just an Omega, Draven said, steel in his tone. His name is Billy, and he saved my life when your organization failed to protect me. Everett's laugh was cold, devoid of humor. Saved you, or trapped you? He stepped inside uninvited, his presence filling the small cabin. Look at yourself, Draven. You were meant to be a king. Instead, you're hiding in the woods, playing house with a scared Omega and his dying mother. My mother is recovering, I interjected, surprising myself with my boldness. And we're not playing at anything. Everett's attention snapped to me like a predator noticing movement. The Omega speaks. How quaint. He circled me slowly, evaluating. Tell me, Billy, what exactly do you think you're doing here? Do you honestly believe my son will choose you over everything I've built, over his birthright? That's not for me to decide, I said, keeping my chin up despite wanting to shrink away. That's Draven's choice. Draven doesn't get to choose. Everett's voice dropped to something dangerous. He has responsibilities, obligations, a legacy to fulfill. And if I refuse, Draven moved to stand beside me. If I tell you that Billy means more to me than your empire? The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Everett pulled out a gun, sleek, black, deadly, and pointed it directly at my chest. Then make your choice right now. Him or everything else. Time stopped. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. This was it. The moment that would determine everything. But Draven didn't hesitate. He drew his own weapon and aimed it at his father. Put the gun down. Now. Shock rippled across Everett's face, genuine surprise breaking through his controlled expression. You would threaten me, your own father, to protect him? Without question. Draven's hand was steady, his voice unwavering. Billy is worth more than any empire you could offer. He's worth more than money, power, or legacy. He's worth everything. Tears burned my eyes, but I blinked them back. Draven, you don't have to. Yes, I do. He glanced at me briefly, and the love in his eyes was unmistakable. Because you're not just someone I'm protecting. You're the person I want to build a life with. The person who makes me want to be better than what I was raised to become. Everett lowered his gun slowly, studying his son with something that might have been respect. You're serious about this? This isn't just rebellion or temporary infatuation. It's the most serious I've ever been about anything, Draven confirmed. The older Alpha turned his penetrating gaze on me again, but this time it felt different, assessing rather than dismissive. You understand what you're asking him to give up? The wealth? The power? The influence? I'm not asking him to give up anything, I said firmly. I've told him multiple times that he doesn't owe me, but he's choosing this anyway. And I respect his decision even as it terrifies me. Why does it terrify you? The question caught me off guard. Because I know what it's like to be someone's obsession, their possession. I know what alphas are capable of when they want something. And the idea that Draven would sacrifice everything for me, it's overwhelming. What if I'm not worth it? What if he regrets this choice someday? Then that's his mistake to make, Everett said. And for the first time his voice held something other than contempt. But I've known my son his entire life, and I've never seen him look at anything the way he looks at you. He holstered his weapon. Very well, If this is your decision, Draven, I'll respect it. You will? Draven sounded as shocked as I felt. Did you expect me to shoot you both? Everett's mouth twitched, not quite a smile but close. I'm a businessman, not a monster. If you want to walk away from the organization, fine. But the enemies we've made don't walk away. They'll come for you and they won't care about your domestic arrangements. I know, Draven said. Which is why I'm asking for your help one final time. Help me eliminate the remaining threats. After that, we're done. You can appoint someone else as your heir. Everett considered this. And what will you do instead? Play farmer in the woods? Live, Draven said simply. Actually live, instead of just surviving. With Billy, building something real instead of maintaining something built on fear. The older alpha studied us both for a long moment. Then he nodded. Fine. I'll provide resources for one final operation. We'll clean house. Eliminate your enemies and then you're free. But understand this, Billy. He fixed me with an intense stare. My son is giving up everything for you. If you break his heart, if you prove to be a weakness that destroys him, I will personally ensure you regret ever crossing paths with the King family. I understand, I said, meeting his gaze, despite my fear. But I'm not planning to be his weakness. I'm planning to be his strength. The thing that makes fighting for a better life worthwhile. Something shifted in Everett's expression. Perhaps approval, perhaps just acknowledgement. We'll see. He moved toward the door, then paused. The operation begins in 3 days. Be ready. He looked at Draven one more time. And son? I hope you know what you're doing. So do I, Draven admitted honestly. After Everett left, the silence felt deafening. Mom emerged from the bedroom where she'd been hiding, tears streaming down her face. Billy, did that really just happen? I think so, I said, still processing everything. Draven pulled me into his arms, holding tight. We did it. We actually survived that. Your father accepted us, I whispered against his chest. I can't believe. He sees what I see, Draven interrupted gently. That this is real. That you're real. And that maybe, just maybe, there's something more important than power and control. I pulled back to look at him. 3 days until the final operation. Are you ready for this? With you? I'm ready for anything. And despite everything, the danger ahead, the uncertainty, the weight of Draven's sacrifice, I believed him. The next week moved like a fever dream. Draven coordinated with his father's resources, planning the operation that would free us from his enemies once and for all. He tried to keep me out of it, but I refused to be left behind. We're partners now, I told him firmly. That means facing danger together, not you protecting me from the shadows. He'd argued, of course. Billy, this isn't your fight. It became my fight the moment I pulled you from the snow, I countered. Besides, you need me. I can move quietly, fit into small spaces, and I'm motivated to see this through. Your enemies threatened my mother. That makes it personal. Eventually he'd relented, though I could see the fear in his eyes every time he looked at me. Not fear of the operation failing, but fear of losing me. The warehouse where his enemies had been planning operations was located on the outskirts of the city. Draven's intelligence suggested 12 men would be there, armed and dangerous. The plan was surgical. Get in, neutralize the threats, get out before anyone could call for backup. I stayed near the entrance as we'd agreed, watching through night vision binoculars as Draven and his father's men moved through the building with lethal efficiency. It was terrifying watching Draven in his element, seeing the cold, calculated warrior he could become when necessary. This was the man his father had raised, the heir to a criminal empire. But I also saw him signal one of his father's men to check on civilian workers before moving forward. Saw him choose non-lethal methods when possible. Saw the way he protected others even while eliminating threats. He was trying to be different even here in the darkness. The operation ended within 20 minutes. No casualties on our side. The threat neutralized permanently. When Draven emerged, covered in sweat and probably some blood, he came straight to me. It's over. Really over. Are you hurt? Just tired. He cupped my face. But we're free now, Billy. Actually free. Everett appeared behind him, looking satisfied. Clean work. You haven't lost your edge. He glanced at me. And your Omega didn't panic or run. Interesting. He's stronger than anyone gives him credit for, Draven said with obvious pride. Everett nodded slowly. Perhaps. Take care of my son, Billy. He's chosen a harder path because of you. Make it worth the sacrifice. Every single day, I promised. 2 weeks later, we returned to my house, or what was left of it. Draven had arranged for repairs, brought in contractors who worked quickly and discreetly. Fresh paint covered the bullet holes, new windows replaced the shattered ones, and the blood-stained floors had been completely refinished. Mom cried when she saw it, overwhelmed by the transformation. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Better than before, because before you were doing everything alone," Draven said gently. "Now you have help. Real help." Christmas morning arrived with gentle snowfall. Pretty this time, not the violent storm that had trapped us together weeks ago. Mom was healthier than I'd seen her in years. The experimental treatment Draven's doctors had provided working better than we'd dared hope. We gathered in the living room, surrounded by decorations I'd put up the night before. It felt surreal sitting here peacefully after everything we'd survived. Draven handed me a small box, his expression nervous. "This is for you." Inside was a simple silver ring, elegant and understated. My breath caught. "Draven, it's not a claiming mark," he said quickly. "I know you're not ready for that, and honestly, I don't know if I believe in forced bonds anyway. But it is a promise. That I'm here, that I'm choosing you, that I'm not going anywhere." I slipped it on, and it fit perfectly. "How did you know my size?" "I have my methods." He smiled, then grew serious. "Billy, I need to ask you something important." My heart started racing. "Okay, next year when you're ready, I'd like us to officially bond. Not because of Alpha Omega biology or tradition, but because I want to spend my life with you. Properly, permanently." He took a shaky breath. "If you'll have me." Tears blurred my vision. "You're really asking me to be your mate?" "I'm asking you to be my partner, my equal, my choice, just as I hope to be yours." His green eyes searched mine. "What do you say?" "Yes," I whispered, then louder. "Yes, Draven. Yes to everything." Mom clapped her hands together, laughing through her own tears. "Finally. Does this mean I can start hoping for grandchildren?" "Mom." I felt my face burning, but I was laughing too. We were all laughing, real, genuine joy filling the house that had seen so much darkness. That evening, we prepared Christmas dinner together. Mom supervised while Draven and I worked side by side in the kitchen, and I realized this was what family felt like. Not just blood relations, but chosen connections. People who stayed through the worst and celebrated the best. After dinner, as we sat by the fire, Draven pulled me close. "What are you thinking about?" "How much has changed," I admitted. "A month ago I was alone, terrified, barely surviving. Now I have you, Mom's healthy, and we have a future together. It feels almost too good to be real." "It's real," he assured me, pressing a kiss to my temple. "We made it real by fighting for it." "Best decision I ever made," I said softly. "What was?" "Stopping to help a bleeding stranger in the snow." He chuckled. "Best mistake I ever made was getting shot near your house." "That's dark, but true." He tilted my chin up to look at him. "Billy, I need you to know something. I love you. Not because you saved me. Not out of gratitude or obligation, but because of who you are. Your kindness, your strength, your refusal to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. I love all of it." My heart felt too full for my chest. "I love you too, even when you're being overprotective and annoying." "Especially then," he teased. Outside, snow continued falling gently, transforming the world into something clean and new. Inside, the fire crackled. Mom hummed old carols in the kitchen, and I sat wrapped in Draven's arms, finally understanding what home truly meant. It wasn't a place. It was people. It was choosing each other every day, through danger and peace, through fear and joy. It was this moment and every moment that would follow. "Merry Christmas, Billy," Draven whispered. "Merry Christmas, Draven." And as we kissed, soft and sweet and full of promise, I knew this wasn't an ending at all. It was a beginning. Our beginning, forever.